Who's coming down the track? And the me what she is red white. Ain't nothing finer in the rain. Just look at what she's doing.
What's up, y'all? This is John back for another episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. Tonight, I have Adam Spencer joining me to talk Mizzou ahead of the border war this weekend. But if tonight is Thursday, so we'll be live in like an hour. Caleb and I will be live on Millions in an hour. But you get live on YouTube on Sundays at the Rock House on Tybee Island for away games, audio through Fans First Sports Network everywhere else. And then I do Rock 1061 in Savannah 6:15 on Fridays. So you'll have plenty of options to listen to us. So please do that somewhere. But Adam, it's been a while. How you been?
I've been great, man. This was a big week for me. This is always a special one because I was kind of the last Big 12 era Mizzou graduate. I graduated in 2012, in the spring of 2012, and then Mizzou made the move to the SEC in the fall of 2012. So I missed the start of SEC during my college days. So but we went out with the bang with the Kansas rivalry, and it's good. It's good to have that one back. Can't wait.
Yeah, I don't. I think a lot of SEC fans, because Mizzou was underrated coming into the league, at least with SEC fans. I feel like a lot of people don't understand that this rivalry, in terms of hatred, is on the level of Georgia, Florida, the Iron Bowl, like the game. As far as hatred, it's way up there.
Yeah, I mean, it takes all of my journalistic integrity to spell Kansas with a capital K when I'm writing about them because, it's the way we say it around Mizzou is that Kansas is not a proper place, so it's not a proper noun, and you don't capitalize the K. So that's the way. That's how deep this rivalry goes. We won't even give them the credit of being a proper noun, and the feelings mutual over in the state that nobody should ever go to for any reason ever.
Yeah, no, I get it. Even in outlines, once Florida loses their first game of the year, the only letter in when we type out Florida in the outline, the only letter in our social media post, the only letter that's capitalized is the L. And every time they lose, there's another L that gets added in Florida. Yeah. Um, but let's go ahead and get into the game here. So Mizzou lost a lot after the 2024 season with Brady Cook, Luther Burden, Mookie Cooper, and then both Marcus Carroll and Nate Noel just draft or wherever they went, no longer in the program. So which one of those guys will Mizzou miss the most this season?
Yeah, I mean, a guy that wasn't on there is Theo Weiss. He is another receiver who was their
I
number
knew I
two
was
last
missing
year.
somebody.
That was really really good for him. Just kind of underrated. I mean, the biggest loss is Brady Cook. Like he just became such a legendary Tiger. Like that game that he came back from the hospital, which was across the street from Memorial Stadium, Faurot Field, to lead a win against Auburn. I mean, that's the stuff of legend right there. Like that guy would have given his life on the field for Mizzou, and that's you just can't really replace that right away. I mean, Bo Perbula, he's going to be great. I mean, I think he showed signs of brilliance, but it's going to take him a while to become a true Mizzou guy, and we'll see if he can get there this week because he's getting a chance to do something that Brady Cook never got to do, which is play Kansas. But he's going to be the toughest guy to replace. Brady Cook, he just developed into such a key part of what they did.
So staying on the quarterback train, I've got a few questions about that position. But Penn State lost their most explosive quarterback to Mizzou this year. I don't know if you're a Drew Aller guy, but it seems like not very many people outside of Happy Valley are. Um, but Bo doesn't have a ton of experience. He's known more of a runner than a passer. Do you think that continues this season?
I think it does. I think that this Mizzou team is gearing up to have quite a running game because Ahmad Hardy, who they brought over from Louisiana Lafayette or Louisiana Monroe, one of the Louisiana schools they've got Ahmad Hardy from. Um, he's going to be great. They have some guys on the offensive line. I know we'll talk about the offensive line a little bit later, but to have Bo in there and have that dynamic, like Brady Cook's a better pure passer than Bo is at this point in his career. Not to say that he can't get there, but right now, Bo is a much better pure runner than Brady was. Brady was tough, but Bo's a pure explosive runner. So, like, if you're going to bring that guy in, like, there wasn't a lot of tape of him as a passer. I mean, there was some stuff that you saw that flashes of during his Penn State career, but you brought that guy in to be a running quarterback. Like, let's not make any mistake about it. Now, I wonder if they ease up a little bit on those plans because Sam Horn, their backup, got injured on his first snap, and it sounds like is going to miss quite a bit of time with that. So, I think they might tone it down a little bit with him running the ball, but it's still going to be a very, very big part of his game in 2025.
So, what are some fair expectations for Bo this season, being new to the system and trying to transition to more of a passing guy than he has been before?
Yeah, I think that it's going to come down to that. A parallel that I draw is to Marcel Reed down at Texas A&M. Like, he's a good running quarterback. He showed that all year last year when he took over for Connor Wegman. But the thing was, like, he really struggled at passes 10 plus yards down the field, and that's something that, like, he's going to have to clean up this year if Texas A&M is going to take that next step. So we'll see. But that's something pretty similar for Bo, is that he's got to improve as a pure passer, and it's not that he's shown that he can't do it. It's just he hasn't had the volume, and we don't know if he can do it. So I think some fair expectations are, I think if he can get like 800 rushing yards, 10 scores, and then whatever you get as a passer, if it's as long as the first number is a 2 or higher, I mean, I think that you're going to be pretty good there. And it's just going to come down to, if they're going to build this running offense, the most important part is just going to be you can't turn the ball over. So he's got to keep his fumbles down. He's got to keep his interceptions down. And if he does that, then this should be a pretty fine year for him.
And then, specifically for this game, Kansas has looked pretty good so far this season. Granted, not the best level of competition. How do you think Bo does in this game?
Yeah, I mean, I saw that you had down that they're a top 15 rushing defense, and yeah, I mean, as long as we take that with a grain of salt, and they're 2 games in against some lackluster competition. I think that they finished 75th in the country last year in run defense, and I think that's probably more of a better indicator. And with the transfer portal, all these guys move around so much, it's hard to say too much definitively one way or the other. But I think that Bo can make a couple of explosive plays, and it's going to come down to like I said, as long as he doesn't give away the ball in costly situations. If you're going to have a fumble, like, don't do it in a backed up in your own territory. Like, don't put the defense in a bad situation. And we'll talk about the defense later, but I mean, this defense is good. Just don't make them have their backs against the wall early and often, and I think that that'll be fine. So that's the goal. Just take care of the ball, move the chains as much as you can, just keep the ball out of Jalen Daniels' hands, and see where it goes from there.
So we've already kind of hit on it a little bit. The running game. Last year, the running backs didn't exactly live up to the standard that Mizzou has set over the last 5 or so years. I mean, Larry Roundtree, Tyler Beatty, Cody Schrader, the list of phenomenal Mizzou running backs is pretty significant. And then last year, they kind of didn't live up to that. So this year, do you think the guys they have are able to?
Yeah, I think Ahmad Hardy has a chance. Like, if we're doing this about the border war in 2 or 3 years, I think that we're going to say, can this new Mizzou running back live up to Larry Roundtree, Tyler Beatty, Cody Schrader, and Ahmad Hardy? Like, I think he's going to be that good. They get him after a freshman year, so they've got him for at least 2 more seasons, hopefully, before he's draft eligible. We'll see with the portal and stuff. You can never fully count your chickens before they hatch there, but I think that he's going to be a really, really good player in this offense, and it shows a smartness in him to come to Mizzou because of these guys that have very similar style to what he has. So he saw that on tape, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go see Eli Drinkwitz and have him turn me into the next guy on that list."
And then we kind of talked about it a minute ago. Kansas defense, they are supposed to be improved. We haven't really seen it against a legitimate team so far, but at week two. But as of now, they are a top 15 rushing defense. How well do you think this running attack can do against those guys?
I think that it's going to come down to a lot of things here. I mean, I think that the one biggest concern that I saw in week one was Caden Green moving out to left tackle. Like he had a couple of nice plays, but he's been a guard for most of his career, and he was really solid at that last year. He's moving outside to left tackle this year. There was a couple of plays where it's like, I don't really know what are you doing there, Caden Green. So if he can, and he's playing a new position, so I mean there's going to be some learning curves there. So maybe this game, if he can show that he's improved a little bit, he's learned from his mistakes last week. I really think that he can get it together, and I think if he gets it together, then the offensive line as a whole will be much better. And I think that Ahmad Hardy and Bo Prabula, those guys can run the ball. Like we've seen that already in in their previous stops and now in week one. So I'm pretty confident that the running game will be fine. And it's just going to come down to Caden Green on the left tackle spot there.
So, hitting on the offensive line a little bit more, based on what I could find in offensive line research without paying for PFF, is almost impossible to do. But Mizzou's replacing three offensive linemen for this season. Kansas, we kind of talked about it. They have been getting to the quarterback well. I did go by sacks per game, and they're 26th in the country, I think. Um, do you think they're able to protect Bo when he does try to pass the ball?
I think that Kirby Moore, the Mizzou offensive coordinator, I think that he's going to have a good game plan here. I mean, it's all about building Bo's confidence early. Get him out of the pocket, get him moving, get him throwing on the run, get him some easy completions early. I think that that's what's most important there. Just build his confidence a little bit, and then and then show that he's a threat with the passing attack, and then you can open up things in the running game too. So I mean, for Caden Green, let him get some confidence too there at left tackle, roll Bo to his right, which is his throwing hand anyway, take some of the pressure off Caden Green there. So I think that Kirby Moore's game plan is going to be ready to go. And I think that you can really game plan for that because, I mean, Connor Tollison, he's the center who's returning. Him not making one of the three all SEC preseason teams was shocking to me. Like that dude can ball. Like he's a great center. He's going to be an NFL draft pick after this year. So I mean, he's going to have the communication along the offensive line, sorted out. So I mean, I think that that's a real positive when you're replacing three offensive linemen. I think, and one of the returners is learning a new spot on the offensive line. I think having that center as the steadying force is really important. So that's why I'm not as down on the offensive line as I would be otherwise.
So on the defensive side of the ball, the front was middle of the pack statistically in 2024, and I know they had some guys, specifically Johnny Walker, who was just an insane athlete on the front there, but 45th in rushing defense, 50th in sacks, and 63rd in tackles for loss. So what does that group need to do to improve this year?
Well, I think that they took a big step just by getting some of the guys that they got out of the out of the portal. They got Jeremiah Trotter's son. Throwback to some of my early days watching football, watching Jeremiah Trotter out there. Damon Wilson, the guy that they got from down there in Athens. He's
Damon Wilson is the reason that we did not do a breakout players episode this year. Second year in a row where all three of my breakout players transferred. And Damon Wilson was the last straw, and I was like, all right, that's it. I'm out. I'm done. I can't do it anymore.
Well, we're happy to have him up here in Columbia. So I think that he's going to be. I think that he's going to be a really big key to the whole defense here. I mean, he's going to try to step into that Johnny Walker Jr. spot, and if he can be Johnny Walker Jr., if not better, which I think he can ultimately be better. It'll just depend on if he can get there this year or not. I mean, I think that they're going to improve that sack number. They've got some guys returning inside on the defensive interior, so maybe the rushing defense will improve. But even being 45th, that they can do that again, I think that that's good. And then the secondary. I mean, they have some guys returning, and they brought in Jalen Catalon, who started his career at he's been at Arkansas. He was most recently at UNLV, I believe. So he's been around. He's one of these veteran guys who can really help on the back end of the defense. So I think that the defense is going to be the strength of the team this year, and we already saw that in week 1 a little bit, against Central Arkansas. So you can't really say too much about that. But the first teamers held Central Arkansas scoreless, and really didn't really break a sweat doing it. So I mean, that was encouraging, and it's just going to be, this is why Damon Wilson's so important, because you've got to. It's not just about getting after the quarterback when it's a guy like Jalen Daniels who can escape the pocket. Like you've got to play your assignments right too. And so he's going to have to set that edge and work outside in to make sure that Jalen Daniels doesn't get out of the pocket. And I think he can do that. I mean, he spent a year in Kirby Smart's system, so it's tough to get much better tutelage than that, for starting your college career.
And so, do you think that they're able to get to Jalen Daniels? And if so, how many sacks does Damon have? Because I'm still extremely high on him.
I think Damon will get one. I don't think that they're going to go crazy and get to him all day, but it's just going to be about making him uncomfortable. Just show him some things he hasn't seen, keep him moving, keep him uncomfortable, keep him from having his eyes downfield. If you can contain him and just, if he sneaks out of the pocket for an 8-yard gain on 3rd and 6, like, you're just gonna have to live with that. But just don't let him get comfortable. Don't let him hit like a 30-yard play on 3rd and 6. Like, don't let him run for 25 yards on a 3rd down. So it's just all about limiting his explosiveness and just keeping him kind of off balance. Changing his throwing angles, just not settling into a groove. And you don't need to have sacks to do that. They help, obviously. And if you hit him early a little bit, maybe he's uncomfortable. But I think they can do that. I mean, like I said, I think that this is the strength of the team. So I'm high on them.
And so the strength of the team last year was the secondary, at least statistically, top 20 passing defense. So what do they need to do to maintain that in 2025?
They have a lot of guys returning. I think that they have Toriano Pride, who's back at one of the corner spots. They've got I mentioned Catalan. He's a transfer in, but they have Dre Norwood, Dalen Carnell. So they've got some guys who are familiar with this scheme, and going into the second year under Batoon as defensive coordinator. I think all these guys who are back are going to be more comfortable within the system. I think that Tristan Newson, Damon Wilson, Josiah Trotter, those guys are an experienced talented group of linebackers too, who can keep they can play some coverage. There's athletic guys who can stop the run, step up. They can get after the quarterback. They can play in coverage as needed. So I think that the versatility of this defense, and I think that they have a little more depth than people might realize. And I think that they're going to start proving that in this game on Saturday.
Do you think that this primarily running offense of Kansas has anything for this secondary?
I don't. I hope I'm not wrong on that. I think that I think they're going to get at least one interception. I think probably Catalan. He's been around the block. He's seen everything. I think that he's going to be the guy that's going to really make a difference, and he can step up. Catalan, we know early in his career, he was a really hard hitter. So I think that he's the guy that can really make things uncomfortable for Jalen Daniels, and I just don't think that the Jayhawks have enough real threats at receiver to push the ball down the field. So if they can force Kansas to be one dimensional, then that's exactly what you have to do against the Jayhawks.
All right, so one, I guess, two big picture questions before we get back into the game. So 2024, I've heard it called a hollow 10 wins for Mizzou. What's your take on that?
I mean, it is what it is. It's par for the course. I mean, ever since Mizzou has joined the SEC, nobody's thought that the Tigers have belonged, even though they won two SEC East titles in their first 3 years. They've now it's like Georgia and Texas or something are the only teams with more wins the past 2 years than Mizzou, and it's just anything that Mizzou does, everybody disrespects it. There's just I don't know what it is. I don't know what Mizzou has done to anybody. It's bizarre, but they just keep on winning. And it's the Mizzou. One of my favorite stats: Mizzou is still the last SEC team to beat Ohio State. So, it's other teams have tried in the past couple of years and have come up short. So, I think that it's very frustrating being a Mizzou fan and just hearing the disrespect that the Tigers get all the time. But it is what it is, and as long as they keep proving everybody wrong, I'm going to be happy about it.
And the person who called that a hollow 10 wins was your coworker Connor O'Gara. So you feel free to
Oh,
go after him about that.
Connor and I have spirited discussions about Mizzou from time to time. So I'm the big Mizzou defender. There's somebody who on my staff who wrote a column that included like Mizzou is like an afterthought win for Auburn this year, and I was like
What?
what do
How?
you
How?
I don't know. And I was like, you gotta go in and change that. It's just because they beat Auburn last year, and I don't know. So the
Haven't they
Mizzou
beaten Auburn
disrespect.
2 years in a row with how the scheduling got changed for 2024?
Well, last year that was that Brady Cook hospital game. I don't remember what 2020. I can't remember what I had for
I
breakfast
thought
yesterday.
I thought 23
2023.
was one of the. It
Let's
was
see.
like the Harrison Beavis gets a delay game, and they kick an extra like a 50 some or super long field goal to beat Auburn at the
That
last
was that
second.
was against Kansas State.
Kansas State.
Yeah,
Why?
that was.
I mean,
That's,
disappointing afterthought. Feline teams, Auburn and Kansas State. Who could who could who could mistake them?
yeah, yeah.
Um, all right. So the win total for the Tigers this year is 7.5. Is that disrespectful considering back-to-back 10+ win seasons?
Yeah, absolutely. It's disrespectful. I mean, it's not disrespectful from the sports books because they're trying to make the number what it'll be to get the most action on either side. So, it's disrespectful from the bettors who just don't want to take Mizzou. It's very frustrating when you look at the schedule. It's one of the easiest in the SEC. I mean, what's going to happen next year is they're going to get like an Arkansas level schedule. But it's like Alabama is the toughest game on the
Which
schedule.
just became
Yeah,
very much
yeah,
winnable.
yes. Like all of their tough games are at home. Like all of them except for the toughest road game that they have is, take your pick between Auburn and Oklahoma. Right now, I'd probably lean Oklahoma a little bit, but those are middle of the road SEC teams. They're not the Georgias and LSU's of the SEC right now. So, they don't have those two. They don't have Georgia, LSU. They don't have Texas. So, I mean, it's a very manageable schedule. I mean, if they don't get to 8 wins, I'm going to be severely disappointed in this team. I think that Texas A&M is a game that I have circled because they, whooped us in College Station last year. Now it's at Faroe Field, so we'll see how that one turns out. But Mizzou's going to lose a game that it shouldn't lose, and it'll win a game that surprises everybody. And I think that at least goes to 9-3. I think 10-2 is in play again, but 9-3 I think is right about where I have them. And to see the over under be 1.5 wins below that is disrespectful, frankly.
Yeah, and I'm on my phone searching through the app that I use to see if I can still bet on the season win total, and they do not have it. Um, so, what are you most concerned about for this game?
I think it's just if if Kansas can force Bo to be a pure pocket passer, like I don't know if he's ready for that yet. I don't know if the receiving core has had enough time to gel because you know Kevin Coleman Jr. is the guy that came over from Mississippi State. He's a really good player. But there's some young guys here getting their first real opportunities. So I think that just forcing Bo to have to stand in the pocket and not be able to use his legs, I think that's the biggest concern. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. Like I said, I think that Kirby Moore can scheme around that to a certain extent. So overall, I'm pretty confident. But the big thing too is like this is a major rivalry game, and it could end up being we've seen some crazy finishes in like the Iron Bowl, the Egg Bowl, the Florida Georgia game, so it's cliche, but things become cliche because they're true that you just throw out the record books in a rivalry game. And so that just the craziness and unpredictability of a rivalry game is another thing that potentially is a cause for concern.
And then, what are you most confident in for this game?
Yeah, the Mizzou defense. I mean, I'll save my picks for when we're doing that segment, but I think that the Mizzou defense is going to control this game, and so that's what I'm most confident in.
All right, so I am trying to update the lines because they've all moved in the last 24 hours. So we're going to pick some games. USF at Florida, and I know Florida has moved to an 18-point favorite. We're going to stick with the over-under I have. That is 56 and a half. Just straight up pick. You don't have to pick the spread. The others are for context.
Oh, I mean, I'll pick Florida to win that one, but I'll even give you a pick against the spread. I don't like the 18. I don't like it. If it was 16 and a half, I would pick Florida. I didn't like the hook at 17 and a half, and I certainly don't like it at 18. So I would take USF to cover because I think Alex Golish is going to be a guy that we're going to hear about in power conference head coaching positions this offseason.
Is he the next Alabama head coach after that Florida State game? That's mostly a joke. Mostly.
They should interview him. Who knows? Interview everybody. It doesn't hurt to take an interview.
And slight side note, we did a whole episode talking to an Alabama writer after they hired Kalen DeBoer, and the episode or the title of that episode was "You Don't Want to Be the Guy After the Goat,"
Yeah.
and everybody said I was crazy, especially when they curb stomped Georgia, and I felt stupid after that. And then 5-5 in the last 10. Like it, you
Yep.
know. All right, so Michigan at Oklahoma. Oklahoma 5-point favorite, over under 45. That over has gone down.
Yeah, I like the under on that. I just think that this is going to be a defensive battle, and it's still some offenses that are trying to find their footing. Both showed good things, but that Oklahoma run game was concerning, and the Michigan Bryce Underwood going on the road for his first true road start as a true freshman. I mean, I think that that's probably a concern, but in a game like this where I expect it to be a really hard fought battle, I'm taking the under. So give me the points with Michigan. I'll say Oklahoma wins by like 1 to 3 points. That would be my pick probably. So the spread being 5 points seems a little bit too high for me.
Yeah, I have gone back and forth on that one. Like, is it going to be a 21-10 game, or is it going to be just 31-38 and all out chaos? And I will finally decide when we talk about this game in the next episode in like an hour because I'm still unsure. All right, so we got Kansas coming to Mizzou in the border war. Side note, is this going to be a recurring thing, or is this just like a home and home series they're doing and then they're going to talk about it later?
I want to say that they have this thing scheduled out through like 2030. Let me check. I got it. I got the
Ooh.
schedule up right here. They got now that let's see, they've got it through. Now they bring the Illinois rivalry back, which is a much lesser rivalry in 2027. Yeah, so that's all. It's only a home and home for right now. It looks like, which is disappointing. But then they renew it again in 2031 and 32. So we'll see. I would hope that they can get it together and do a yearly thing, and I think that makes sense. But yeah, right now it's only a home and home.
Yeah, the Big 12 is being real weird about scheduling because we talked to We talked to somebody that covers Iowa State for the week 0 game, and they're not. Farmageddon is not a protected rivalry when they redo the scheduling next year. Like what is the Big 12 doing? Um, but Mizzou 6.5 point favorite now, over under 51.
I'm taking the over. I think that this game's going to have some points, especially late. And I do like Mizzou to cover. I think that this will be a back and forth game a little bit just by the intensity of the rivalry. But the Mizzou run game and the horses that they have on the offensive line, I think in the second half really start to take over. And, Mizzou wins by 7, 10, 12 points, something like that late just by having more depth and having more top end talent. And again, like I just think Ahmad Hardy's a machine, and he's going to be the difference in the second half of the third quarter, and then the entire fourth quarter. He's just going to go wild.
Awesome. I can tell you that I learned quite a bit, and I will probably be changing my pick. Just spoiler, I had Kansas covering because Mizzou finds a way to just squeak these games out.
Yeah, I mean
But
that's fair too.
but I think you might have talked me into Mizzou covering that, especially because it's not a touchdown yet. That's kind of the
That's
line where I
exactly
would
right.
be
If it was
questioning.
7.5, I'm not picking the spread. But yeah, 6.5, I'm comfortable with the 7.
All right. Appreciate you coming on and talking to us. It's always a pleasure. Maybe we'll be able to talk about a Georgia Mizzou game next year with the scheduling changes. But if you have anything you want to plug,
Yeah, just come to SaturdayDownSouth.com. Sign up for our newsletter, which comes out twice a week during football season, the Saturday football newsletter. We've got you covered, man. Everything that you need SEC football related.
awesome, awesome. I got a couple things to close up on, but I appreciate you coming on and talking to me, and hope to talk to you at least next season. If not, Mizzou makes a push to the playoff.
Let's hope so.
All right. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.
Recording stopped.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Oh, gotta stop the other recording.